everybody. A warm welcome to Wisdom from North, the place where we're diving into the deeper meaning of life and asking the big questions. My name is Jannecke, and today I'm here with Mikael de Vipe, who is a medical doctor and a family therapist, and he has been researching methods on awareness, and he has worked within this field of mindfulness and awareness for many years, and he's probably recognized as one of the most respected teachers actually on mindfulness in Norway. I would say so. Hello, how are you, Michael?
I'm fine, thank you.
So we just had a Norwegian interview and we've been speaking about mindfulness. What is mindfulness for you, if you could explain it with some words?
Yes, I'll try to do that. For me, I think mindfulness means embracing life with confidence, having faith in this moment, this meeting, be a willingness to be with what is, without knowing what is going to happen. And that is both a challenge and very easy.
Yeah, we spoke about a trust to life without going into what you want to create, just or protect yourself from, but just trusting in the moment, and that comes with mindfulness. How has that helped you, just feeling that trust more and more in life? How has that changed you in a way?
I think that when I was young, I had a lot of anxiety, and I was always in a mental mode of being aware of situations and people that would not be very comfortable for me to be with, and situations that I should avoid. And I think gradually, as the years passed and I practiced, I noticed that I could be with my anxiety without having to change it. And when I could be with it, it changed.
The anxiety changed?
Yes.
It dissolved in a way, or
Yes,
got smaller?
I think that's a good way of looking at it. It's not that it's solved, but it's dissolved. The feelings of anxiety are still there, but they don't impact on my mind in the same way as it did before, because then I would be the anxiety. I was anxious, but now I am with my anxiety, and that is a different perspective. And I think also, as years have gone by, I have been able to rest more in the part of me that is not anxious.
Yeah, I just got a thought, because you are not, I mean, you have the emotion, but sometimes we can feel that I am the emotion, that's all I am. Now I'm depressed, that's all. Jannecke is depressed, like that's my whole being right now in this moment. But instead, just thinking that, okay, a part of me is feeling this. This is not the whole me. But in the moment, it's like you feel like it's the whole you.
Yes.
It's strange.
I quite agree with you. And I think it's the difference between saying, I am worried, to saying, I have a worry. And the relationship, I think that when you practice you realize that your mind is continually active, continually creating content, emotions, thoughts, aspirations, bodily sensations. Everything is happening all the time. And once you realize that, and you can sit with it, you realize that thoughts are actually phenomena in the mind. They arise, they have a peak, and then they pass.
They have a peak? That's new to me.
Yeah, when the thought becomes really active and you are that thought.
Or you feel that you are it.
Yes, exactly. You identify with it. So a strong opinion, like politicians or ideologists, they are their ideology. And that the meanings become, in a way, solid. But when you observe the mind, you see that nothing is solid. The thoughts, they come and go. And even more interestingly, the feelings, they also come and go. Anxiety, it has a sort of normal way of arising, increasing. They reach a peak, and then it'll fall off. There is no emotion that is constant.
Yes, I've discovered that the body can't hold one state for that long. No. Like, it will change.
Exactly.
And that's a relief, I feel like, if, because sometimes I have a lot of emotions. I'm up and down. And when if I feel some anxiety or some depression, I try to remind myself that, this will pass because your body can't keep it for that long.
I think that's very right. And if you experience that again and again, then you become increasingly aware that you can't trust your thoughts and feelings. You can't trust them in the sense that they are true. They may be a good indication of what is happening. They may give you information that you can act on, but to say that they are the truth about you, that is different. And to me, you are always more than your depressive feelings or your depressed thoughts. You're always more. And I think that once we anchor ourselves in our being mode, not our doing mode, but our being mode, it becomes easier to allow that, to allow the mind to be as it is, and to rest in awareness of a bigger you. And that, I think, is the fruit of practicing.
Can you speak a little bit about your theory on what actually thoughts are? I became a little bit interested when you said it's a phenomenon, but sometimes I wonder where they come from. Do you have a theory on that?
I don't know where they come from, but of course we can look at the brain and see lots of activity in the brain that relates to thoughts. But to say that the thoughts come from the brain, that is a fundamental question. Do they express themselves through the brain, or do they come from the brain? And that is a question that you can't really answer with 2 lines under. But personally, I think of consciousness as a force. And we know it's there because I am conscious of sitting here with you. So consciousness is real for me. And I think our knowledge of consciousness is very limited. And we limit it to a large extent through our own mind activity. Because if you look at consciousness, you can in a way say that it has a perspective that is wide and open. Like when you look at a horizon and you're not picking out anything, you're just receiving whatever is in the horizon, and you let it come to you. That is in a way an open big picture of consciousness, while our attention always picks out something, picks out a thought, picks out a feeling, a bodily sensation, something, and narrows that aspect of consciousness. And that's why I really like the English language, because it has 2 words which we don't have in Norwegian. You have attention, which is a focusing of consciousness, and you have awareness, which is the opening of consciousness. And both aspects are very important. And when you start practicing
mindfulness, for instance,
you start practicing attention.
And not awareness?
And not awareness. Because first you must stabilize that faculty of the mind that can choose what to be aware of.
Okay.
If that stability of the mind is not there, your mind is all over the place all the time. It'll just respond to whatever is happening. So you first have to stabilize the mind. So that's why we use an object of attention, like the breath or the body. So we again and again bring our attention back and stabilize it. And then once it is stabilized, gradually we can open up more and more and allow whatever is arising in the field of awareness to come and to go without controlling it or doing anything to it. Just being present.
So does this happen in the same practice, or do you recommend that we start focusing on one thing or one object for a long time, and then after a month we start being aware?
Many years ago, I attended a 1-month Vipassana retreat at Gaia House in Devon, in England. And it was very interesting. We were 22 people from 11 countries. And we were introduced to each other one day before the end of the retreat. So it was all in silence for 1 month. And there we practiced attention on the breath for 1 week, attention on thoughts for the second week, attention on feelings for the 3rd week. And then in the 4th week, choiceless awareness, open awareness, to allow whatever arises to come into the field of awareness. And when it was time for it to leave, it left.
The awareness left?
No. The object. Oh. So if it was a thought, you would stay with the thought, and then the thought would leave. And then there would come an emotion, and then the emotion would leave. And then there would be a bodily sensation, and then that would leave. So you just allow whatever arises to be present. So that, in a way, was a sort of pedagogic way of structuring that month of practice. But whenever you sit down, stabilizing your attention, there will also be a practice of the open aspect, implicit. Okay. So you will gradually become more aware of what is there. Because what happens is I sit, and then suddenly I start to think about my bills that I haven't paid. And so I'm in that process of thinking about that for perhaps 5 minutes, and then suddenly I remember.
You catch yourself. I was supposed to meditate.
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh, where's the breath? Yeah. And so you acknowledge what was there, and you return to the breath. But in that moment of recognizing that that your mind was somewhere else, you both recognize what was there, and you recognize coming back. And so that practice of again and again being caught, coming back, being caught, coming back, also gradually opens up and increases your ability to be with a wider field of phenomena.
And like we said in the Norwegian interview, like opening up to intuition and insights.
Exactly. Exactly.
Can you do this on the street as well, just going around practicing awareness? How would one do that? Could you, for instance, focus on your breath? But I mean, you need to be aware at the same time in the streets and traffic. So how can we practice in the traffic and the everyday life?
Yes. That is the most important practice in everyday life. And I think if you are in contact with yourself, so that you have a sense of yourself when you walk out, you're not just filled with where you're going, but you have a sense of yourself. You're walking out. And then you can have a sense of, am I open to what is happening? Am I actually listening? Am I seeing? Am I smelling? Am I present in the situation I am in? That is a fantastic way of practicing awareness, of becoming aware of what is there in relation to where I am myself. And the opposite is what you very often see, a group of people being together, but they are all in their own iPhone. Yeah. So it's in a way a community of separation. Everybody is separated, being together. So, and you see it in the restaurants. People sit facing each other, but they're both sitting on their iPhone.
Yeah, and it's kind of a cultural thing as well, that if you're sitting alone, you just need to show that you're doing something, that you're not just here alone. I mean,
I think that's quite true. I think that's quite true. So, and I feel that as well. So if I sit somewhere and I have that feeling, that's fantastic. I can embrace that feeling, and I can try and open up, both to what is happening here and to the situation. And then, of course, there's nothing wrong in using the phone. It's fantastic for its purposes, but it's good to be aware of when it is just an escape.
and how many times you were actually looking at it. That's wild. That's crazy. I just recognized myself one day. I was like, oh my goodness. It's just automatic, you know.
Exactly.
You look at it, yeah.
And I heard that somebody had coined a new diagnosis, which was called virtual vibrational syndrome, and which is the number of times you reach for your phone to see if somebody has called. And people have looked into this, and it happens a lot. You think there was an SMS, or you think there was a message, so you bring up your phone, but there was nothing. It was just your mind moving.
So I'm wondering, do you get more energy by being present? Because I can imagine that the thoughts are taking a lot of energy. If you're like obsessively thinking, that can maybe be tiresome. So I'm wondering, do you feel like you have more energy, like being in the moment?
I think what you say is very right. When you're active in your mind, 25% of the body's energy goes to the brain.
Wow.
So if you can relax in relation to what is happening in your mind, it frees energy. It frees energy, and you can use that energy for what you choose to focus on, what you choose to do, or what you choose to be. Because that is, I think, something that people don't really realize, that nearly all the important things in our life has nothing to do with doing. It has to do with being. We say, I am in a relationship. I don't say I do a relationship. I say I am grateful. I don't say I do grateful. And I am a human being, not a human doer. Although a lot of the time, that is how I live, only through my actions. But love, gratefulness, compassion, empathy, all the important relational qualities are really, they are not seated up here, they are seated here.
So I mean, mindfulness has to do with love and being empathic, or what's the words? Friendly. Because sometimes I can feel like, okay, mindfulness is just to observe, being and accepting whatever is happening. But does that mean that you're becoming more loving? Or is that something you have to add to it in a way?
That's a very fundamental and important question. And I think that studies show that if you practice just mindfulness, it does impact your relational qualities. It does have an effect because you are really practicing the relationship to yourself, being accepting, being non-judging, allowing things just to arise, to be. That there is a lot of relational quality in that. But it is interesting that if you look at the tradition where mindfulness arose within the Buddhist tradition, and also in all other contemplative traditions, there are practices that both go to increase the clarity of mind and practices that goes to the opening of the heart. And if you think, if you have a human being with a really open mind but a closed heart, or you think of a person that has a really closed mind but an open heart, none of that is very good. There are lots of problematic things with that. So you need both an open mind and an open heart. You need both. And that's why practicing compassion, practicing empathy, practicing loving kindness is implicit and part of the training. And it is interesting to see that there is a professor in the States, Richard Davidson, and he has been researching especially this empathy training. What happens to the brain when you train loving kindness or empathy? And he's been looking into people who have practiced this for many 10,000 hours. And what he sees is that the changes in our brain comes quicker if you do heart opening exercises than pure witness exercises. So if we really work on those qualities, those attitudes, fundamental attitudes of being kind, of being loving, of being grateful, that has a big impact not only on each other, but on ourselves. And I had a very interesting experience in Italy some years ago, where we visited a psychiatric unit in Trento, in the north of Italy. And there they have, for many years, employed users and family members in the services. Many users and family members are employed in the services. And the head psychiatrist, he told us that the first thing they ask patients when they come is, what is it that you would like to do for others? And he says, if we can help people to find in what way they would like to be meaningful or helpful to other people, that helps their mental state more than anything else.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And there is a lot of research showing that altruism, which is helping others or being something for others, that is health promoting.
That makes so sense to me, because to me, I would feel useful, if I would help others. I would feel like I have a purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah, and a mission.
Exactly.
And I think having that gives so much, purpose to your everyday life. Yeah.
Quite right.
Yeah. But it's all connected, because you have to love yourself at the same time and be good to yourself. But I need you and you need me, and I need myself. So it's wonderfully connected.
I think that mindfulness is relational. Always. It is relational. It has to do with the relationship to myself, my relationship to other people, and my relationship to the world. It is relational. And we are born in relation, we are hurt in relation, and we are healed in relation. So it is always relational. And it's a pity in a way that in our culture, which is individualistic, our culture has to do with me, my development, what I can get out of the world, what is important to me. That is strong in our culture. And the community aspect is less strong. And I think that is perhaps the reason why the world is in the state it is in. Because we forget that we are connected. We forget that we are interdependent. We forget that whatever is happening in Africa will impact us, and vice versa.
And I really think it does, like energetically on levels that we don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, last question: what kind of practice do you have in mindfulness?
Well, I try to practice everyday life. I try to practice in relation to you.
Me too.
Being here with you, but because I'm a slow learner,
You are?
I'm a slow learner, so I need to practice formally as well. So I use 1 hour in the morning. So I do yoga for 20 minutes, and then I do toning. So I tone as an energetic exercise, and then I meditate.
Wonderful. This was so inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best with your studies. You're having some studies, and you're doing some amazing work. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching, guys. And remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't before. Much light from Oslo. Bye-bye.